Actually, maybe you do it, because I'll do the intro.
Okay.
Actually, maybe you do it, because I'll do the... Alright, let's do this. G'day, guys. Welcome once again to the Tripod this week. Round 22 preview in the NRL. We're getting down the home stretch. Only 4 weeks left. And I'm excited for this week. Not because it's a great spot for us to bounce back. As you saw in the graphic earlier, we are still well up on the season, but we have had 3 losing weeks in a row, which is unusual for us. I'm changing it up today. I've got the glasses on. Haven't worn the glasses the last 3 weeks that we've been losing. Maybe that should be, like a good luck charm or something. And Jacob, you saw today, I tried to mix it up, giving out some horse racing tips. As we tell people all the time, horse racing is a mug's game, but it certainly is, a bit of fun. I gave out 9 horse racing tips today. Not one of them didn't place. Every single one placed, and I won 6 out of 9. So
I tell you, mate, you're in the wrong game.
The luck is going to fucking roll right through to round 22.
Yeah, I think you're in the wrong game. So if people don't know, in Brisbane, it was Mecca Wednesday, big race meet that a lot of people make a pilgrimage to, and a public holiday. No public holiday for us. We're still here to handicap the games. I personally have been soul searching as well. Like, why haven't we been picking up as many winners? Is it me? And part of it is that we've done so well historically that we do set the bar very high for ourselves. So it's like you're in the midst of a 57% win season. You feel like, what am I doing wrong? But maybe we're not doing that badly. But a big winning round is just around the corner. And yeah, I want to keep it short and sharp. I feel like when we're killing it, people want to hear more and more about why we're picking games. If we're on a bit of a cold streak, then let's just stick to like our main handicapping reasons each game and keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, we deserve it this week too, because my mates invited me to go to Ekka Races. I said, no, I've got the fucking pod. We need to win on that. Jacob, I know you can't see the comments, but people are saying that you look like you're sitting on the casting couch, so it's probably not untrue. But,
is that what that stain is?
Let's get kicked off, guys. We'll start with Manly laying 8.5 points, hosting the Tigers on Thursday night. 40.5 is the total. Look, yeah, Manly, I guess, disappointing loss last week, and it was one that few people saw coming. We were on the Warriors, but to be fair, we probably didn't expect, them to absolutely roll Manly in the first half like they did. In fairness, it's a nice bounce-back spot for Manly. It's also a nice bounce-back spot for the Tigers. Losing to the Bulldogs is a bit of an embarrassing loss, especially when you're up, 8-0 or 10-0 at halftime. You should really go on with that. So that's why you'll see on the graphic that I really do like the unders in this game. I think Manly has been a very solid defensive team all year. Same with the Tigers. We have both teams coming off losses. Generally, you focus a bit more on defense when you lose. And especially, the Tigers led in 18 straight points. They'll want to shore up their defense. And Manly just started terribly. So I especially think Manly will start off well on the defensive end. If I were to lean aside, I probably would lean with the Tigers in this one. Although they are a little bit short-handed, I think that they can, get into the grind with Manly. But, in saying that, you do have Mbai out, you do have Robbie Farah out, and Luke Garner on a bullshit suspension. So the Tigers are a little bit short-handed. So I feel much safer taking the under than taking any side in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I like the unders. We've seen what Manly has done all season long defensively. Now, Curtis Sirenden's out. He's actually been a try-scoring back rower. They bring in Jake Gashesky. I think that covers that. And lost Brad Parker, bizarre injury, injured himself tapping the ball. But Brendan Elliott has also been very stout, covering the back line. He slots right in. And, yeah, a good team off a loss. Do you expect Manly at home will bounce back for this one? I'd expect that they would win. West got to be desperate. I'd be a little bit worried they'd be deflated. We talked about in our recap how heartbreaking that loss was. But talking about how those games ended last week, like the Manly game, there's 18 points in 68 minutes and then a flurry of tries. And we still cashed the under. Yep. And West Tigers, you said they conceded 18 straight and they scored 2 late tries themselves. that game still went under 2. So if anything, those two teams played very low-scoring games last week with a deceiving final score. And as you say, Luke Garner being scratched last night, that's just enough to keep me off the Tigers too, because I feel they are starting to get a bit thin on troops and probably thin on belief. I really feel their season ended last week. Now on the table, it looks like they've still got a chance, but I feel like they're going to fall short. Probably won't win this one, probably won't make the 8, but low-scoring affair on Thursday, I think.
Indeed, we have 2 plays on the game so far. We're taking no try in the first 8 minutes. That one's $1.80 on Neds and on Ladbrokes, and we're going to take under 41.5 points for the game. That is $1.87 in the Sportsbet other markets. Make sure you look there because you will get a better price. Apparently one of us is breathing really loud in the microphone, Jacob. It's either you or me, but let us know if that stops, Rob. I've moved my microphone a bit further away from me, so hopefully that does stop. But otherwise, it can be wank bank material for later on in the night. Let's move on to the Titans, plus 7.5 points, hosting the Eels. 42.5 points is the total. I mean, we've made no secret that we were a little bit wrong on the Titans. We were high on them to start the season, and they just have not delivered. And we thought that might be the case last week, and to be honest, they did put in against the Dragons. They, put in offensively, I guess, in attack, but they still conceded 40 points. So the defense is still pretty dismal there for the Titans. They still conceded 40. On the Eels side, obviously, they're sitting in, 5th or 6th spot on the ladder now. They've still got an outside chance of making the top 4, so they certainly have a lot to play for here. And I would say that the Eels have probably been a little bit underrated or had kind of 2 phony victories. Not phony victories, but they should have probably won by more the last 2 weeks. I mean, against the Dragons and against the Knights, we were on them in both those games. Yes, they did cover both games, but I really feel like they were up by double digits, I think, in both of those games. Should have gone on with it. And the one concern was the super conservative play when they were up in the final quarter of the game. So the only concern with taking the Eels in this one is, will that happen again? But I do think that they are the much superior team. And to be fair, the Titans have not covered a game in probably over a month and a half, I think. They have been woeful. And, they put in a decent effort last week. But even then, they can still concede 40. So I can see the Eels putting up a bunch of points here. So I'm happy to lay the chalk.
Yeah, with regards to the Eels, they've also got a good run home. It's very possible they could run the slate and they could actually knock on the door of the top 4. I mean, the Raiders, dropping that game on the weekend. Obviously, Bunnies have dropped a couple in a row, so it's very possible. And the Eels are playing good footy. And as you say, they could have won the last couple of games by more. Now, when you say they're ending games conservatively, just to, give it examples of that, like when they've had attacking sets and against the Knights, they were up 6. So if you can score one more time, you're going to put them away.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not throwing it around as much and offloading as much. Now, I get that because, if you make an error, you can open up the game and turn over possession. And if you swing it to your winger, they can get bundled in touch. But 20 metres out, they were happy to kick it over the sideline rather than put a bomb up. And you're thinking that lets your opponent off the hook. They got to be breathing a sigh of relief. You put a bomb up, you might get a repeat set, you might score, and you kill the game.
They were up 10, they were up 4.
No, exactly. So you're asking for more there, but it does show they back their defence. And I don't see why they would look past the Titans here. I think they know they've got to come in and do the job against the Titans. Now, with the Titans, they're picking a similar team. Look, they gave effort. As you said, we got it wrong on the Titans this year, but they've had the season from hell, and we've either picked them in games where they've completely no-showed and given us no chance to win, and we've also picked them in games this year where it was actually not a bad pick and we got a good number, and then just as fate would have it, we've been on the wrong side of some late moments, and last week was a good example of a back-breaking try by Dragons, cost us a cover there. But it's the Titans are back home now. Now, you'd think they'd put in effort, but how many people are going to come out and watch this team? There's no home advantage. Even if 100 people come out and watch, they should be trying hard. But I look at the makeup of the team, Gordon's picked on the bench. You've got Brenko Lee, who's a centre playing on the bench. You've got Cartwright, who's, I don't know what position he is. He should probably just be left, right, out altogether. Yeah, if that. So I don't like the team. And even if the Titans bring it, the Eels can still win this game by more than a converted try. So that's where I like that I know that we should get good effort out of the Eels. The Titans, you never know what you're going to get, but the Eels should still be too classy, and there's no home advantage really to speak of.
Oh, definitely, you're right. And look, the Dragons brought it 2 weeks ago, the Eels covered. The Knights brought it last week, pretty much, and the Eels covered. So we're happy taking the Eels here. We're going to take 2 bets so far. We're taking the Eels minus 6.5 points. That one is $1.83 on BetEasy. I believe, Jake, can you confirm that's in the pick your own line section? Sorry, I don't think I wrote
There
that
was
down.
pick your own line, $1.83.
Pick your own line section, and we're going to take the Eels minus 3.5 points in the first half. That one is $1.80 on Bet365. Moving on to the Broncos, laying 2.5 points, hosting the Panthers. 37.5 is the total. Really interesting game, this one for me. I mean, the Broncos have been pretty ordinary all season long, but they get the last-minute, last-gasp victory over the Cowboys last week, and now that keeps them in 8th spot, and certainly they still believe that they, will be in the top 8. And to be honest, from this position, they probably still will be. But you look at their body of work and just the way that they've played, and it's more so the eye test with the Broncos. Yes, they've been pulling out some victories, but you watch them play, and there's just no cohesion in that team. I understand that the forward pack is, they've got some young guns in the forward pack, like David Fafita scores a try that should not have been a try last week, just from brute strength, and they do have a solid forward pack, but the halves play still worries me, and I just think that the Panthers are a much better overall team. Now, you look at the line, the Broncos are laying 2.5 points. Suncorp Stadium, we always say, is one of the stronger home fields in the comp, so this line is saying that the Panthers are a little bit better than the Broncos. Are they a little bit better than the Broncos? Yes, probably. I think they're probably, a bit more than a bit better than the Broncos, that's for sure. And, Panthers coming off, what I would say is a confidence-boosting win. They played one of their better games of the season last week without Maloney. You get him back. It's not through injury. I know he's aging, but this is not through injury. It's just a suspension. He gets a week off. He's going to come back fresh. This is pretty much a full-strength Panthers side now that they get Maloney and Kickow back. I think they're going to be too good for the Broncos here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they, pull the outright upset.
Yeah, it's all about narratives that people watch a game and come away with, and the narrative out of that Broncos-Cowboys game, as well as it was an eyesore, was the Broncos dug deep, they fought hard, and they got the win, and they kept their season alive. If they don't get that late try, I tell you, there would have been hell to pay. Seabold would have been violently ill on camera because they were so bad. And all game, the commentators are saying, where are the halves for the Broncos? And I've questioned, what is Darius Boyd doing at 5'8"? And he ran for all of 1 meter in that game, which is ridiculous. Like a guy who's moved from fullback to 5'8", no running threat to speak of whatsoever, no threat of any kind. Turpin even, they didn't give him any direction, but he scored the winning try, and then everyone was saying he had a great game. But the commentators all game are saying no direction in the attack, no shape in the attack. And that is still the same problems they're going to bring into this game, except they're going to play a better opponent. Be in the halves. Exactly. And now, what is the Broncos' strength? Obviously a home crowd and a very strong forward pack, but no Glenn and Gillette, although they're in the reserves. But we'll see how that plays out. But definitely it's a strong forward pack. But the Panthers actually have a forward pack that can match them, especially since Kickow comes back into this team. And Maloney into the halves, the question mark there is going to be, Cleary has played his games actually without Maloney, so now you add Maloney in there. But you still have to say that the halves play is a huge advantage to the Panthers in this one. So I really feel like the Panthers can win this game. We're catching points. Now, I'll throw a question at you. I feel like you've got something on your mind. Maybe you can share with me.
I'm reading the comments. Continue.
You can share any of the funny comments because I can't see them. You tell me if you can who's going to make the 8, because we know everyone up to 6th, which is the Eels, and obviously above them is Manly and then the top 4. There's 2 spots up for grabs between 6 teams. I will say the 2 teams that make it is the Cronulla Sharks and the winner of this Broncos-Panthers game, which I'm tipping the Panthers. So that's how huge this game is, but we're getting the underdog with the points.
Oh, and you'd have to agree. I'd have to agree because, look, what are they, 6th and 7th? Oh, sorry, 8th and 7th on the table right now. Is that right? Panthers on 22
I think
points,
you're right.
Broncos on 21.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah.
If Panthers win, the Sharks will get in.
Yeah.
I don't think these two both get in.
No, I probably agree with you because, I mean, Sharks should win this week, and then I think they've got a decent run home. I think they play the Tigers at home or something like that. So, and I would completely agree with you from probably that 8th spot to the 12th spot. The Sharks are certainly the most talented team in that section. And, now that they're pretty much fully healthy, they are one of the more dangerous teams in the comp. No, the comments that are coming through, Jacob, someone said, when I said that the Panthers are a bit more than a bit better, excellent analysis. You'd agree, eh? That's
that was some of your best work.
That's as good as you can get it. Someone else was saying, how cracker was that Burton young gun? And he was. He was very, very solid last week. He filled in very well. quite conservative in his play, but I thought that it was perfect for the way that the game panned out because the Panthers got out to an early lead and he was able to sort of control tempo and that sort of thing. But we've got 4 best bets on this one so far. We're going to take a Mechanical Panthers plus 4 points for the game. It's going to end up being $1.80. We're going to put 58% of our stake on the Panthers plus 4.5 points. That one is $1.72 on both Ladbrokes and on Neds. We're going to put the remaining 42% of our stake on Panthers plus 2.5 points. That is $1.91 on Bet365. Now, you might notice in that one, people might have questions that if the game lands on 3. Yes, if the game lands on 3, we don't actually win. We just get our money back. So that answers that question. We're going to take the Broncos to score under 3.5 tries. That is $1.80 on Bet365. The Panthers to score over 16.5 points. That's $1.95 on Bet365. And the Panthers to score over 6.5 points in the first half. That is $2 on Bet365. Moving on to the Knights, minus 5.5 points, hosting the Cowboys. 40.5 is the total. Another relatively interesting game. I had an inkling to lean overs in this one. Like I've kind of said before, I do like taking the overs when there's 2 teams that are completely out of contention for the 8 that are playing each other. Kind of like the Dragons-Titans game last week. We saw what happened there. There were 68 points scored, and both teams, pretty much defense was optional, that's for sure. But in this one, I had a bit of a look, and the Knights probably still do believe that they can make the 8. They are a long shot, obviously, and they probably won't make the 8. But if you look at their run home, there's winnable games in there, and you look at the teams ahead of them, and that there is still a chance. So I do think that the Knights haven't completely given up on the season despite losing last week. The Cowboys, on the other hand, that is, I don't want to say like that's a heartbreaking loss because they're already completely out of the 8. But I do think that it's probably a little bit of a letdown spot for the Cowboys. You get up at home against the Broncos, you fall agonizingly short. And when you're a team that's out of contention for the 8, there's certain games that you get up for and there's certain games that you don't. And certainly, a game against the Broncos at home is a game that you will get up for, and they did. So now I just worry about, what sort of effort they'll put forward against the Knights team in Newcastle. I don't think it's going to be as good of an effort as they did against the Broncos. But in saying that, the Knights' motivation has to be questioned here as well. Like I said, maybe they still believe they're a chance to make the 8. They are mathematically. But do the players actually still believe that? So, at 5.5, it's a stay away from us at the moment. But what are your thoughts, Jacob, initially?
Well, yeah, I don't like overs because we've spoken for a few weeks about how the Knights are so lacking in attack. They're so one-dimensional, and I don't feel that Pong is 100%. I said to you, he may have a strain or a complaint, but he's playing through it because he's in the middle of contract negotiations, and he can say that it doesn't matter and stuff, but he's trying to get, a mega deal signed. He might want to be out there on the paddock, or it might hurt his bargaining if he's, showing his little bit fragile there. And I love him as a player, but he does not look the same the last few weeks. Neither does Mitchell Pearce since Origin. Isn't it crazy, this team? Opening round win, 6-game slide, 7-game win streak, now 7-game losing streak, give or take a game there. And will they break it here? I mean, it's a great time to, when your season's nearly over, but if you've got any chance you have to win, and you get to play at home against the Cows, so give them that. They might have gotten a soft kill at the perfect time. Cowboys, obviously, without Josh Maguire, but McLean will come back into the team. He's been named. He was a late scratch against Brisbane. And Kahu will actually help the outside backs too, because Gideon Mosby, he couldn't catch bombs, which is another problem against Brisbane. Whereas the Knights, they've dropped Levi again, so he's in the doghouse, and I've spoken about what I think about Watson, as a ball player. I feel like this is Nathan Brown's last chance, and it might already be too late. I spoke to you about this before, but it's like they gave him the job and were fully accepting of winning multiple wooden spoons, and they let him strip it all bare, the team down to the bare bones and build it up again. They took several years of pain. They started to get the recruits last year, but it didn't go their way. But they were like, all right, well, now we're not, no hopers. But then this year was meant to be the year, especially once they got their winning streak. But it just looks like he's got no answer. I think he knows that after everything he's come and all his dreams that he's built towards, how much more can they tolerate? Because this is a failure of a season. The team is failing now. Is this a last showing, or is this team already kind of given up because they know they almost just want to get put out of their misery. Glasby's out as well. That's,
Yeah.
an origin back row, tightening up your middle there. This team just doesn't show me enough in defense or in attack to trust. So I don't want to bet either team in this game, so I don't have a play yet.
And that's fair. Sometimes it's like you love a game where there's like ugly teams playing, and sometimes you just don't. And that's one of the games that we don't love at the moment. Obviously, if you are in the Tripod app and you are in our group, we will be releasing any additional best bets that we do give out. So we may have bets on the Knights Cowboys as well as any other games that we haven't given any bets out so far in the Tripod app tomorrow at about lunchtime. Let's move on.
And just to repeat one more time, the reason for that is, one, we kind of let it marinate. We talk to each other and say, our initial thoughts. We share that with you on a Wednesday night. But then, we even interact with people in our forum and the comments on the podcast. We look for more information tomorrow. And then the other reason is because not all the bookies have all their markets out on the game. So we don't lock in every single play on a Wednesday to share with you because it's just not possible. So more often than not, we find value on a game. We have tips on more games than we pass. So that's, again, why you want the app and you want to be in our group.
Absolutely. And then Saturday, the middle game, we've got the Storm laying 6.5 points against the Raiders. 40.5 points is the total. Obviously, this is the best game of the round so far. Last week, we had two cracking Sunday games, and this week we've got another top four clash. Should be a really interesting one. I know a lot of people in the group and in the app grabbed the Raiders +8, I believe, on Bet365 a few days back. We've mentioned reasons why we don't give out early best bets anymore, so we didn't grab that one. But that obviously looks tasty now when, the consensus line is the Storm laying 6.5 points. And it looks high, right? But you got to think, you got to take, home field advantage into account. Storm have one of the better home fields in the comp. And especially when you are, leading the table, you are going to get more fans out to the game. And I'd argue that you could easily say that the Storm home field is worth 3 points. So then you break it down mathematically and you say, well, look, are the Storm 3.5 points better than the Raiders? Maybe. It's probably close. But in saying that, I know we've said this I said this last week, kind of not, definitely questioning the Storm's motivation, but they're 3 points, they're 3 games clear on the ladder. Do they really want to have to win all these, final games? And they don't. But you saw the effort that they put in last week against the Rabbits in what was not necessarily a must-win game for them. This is pretty much a similar sort of situation. So I do think that the Storm are going to put in 100%. I also think that they're going to play all their players, but there's certainly a chance that they don't. Whereas on the Raiders side, you cannot question their motivation here. They're still playing for a top 4 spot and possibly a top 2 spot, coming off a loss against the Roosters in a game where I think they easily could have won that. I think they were just as good as the Roosters, if not better. I could also argue the same about the Storm game. I could argue that the Rabbits were the better team for the majority of that game. You take out, that first 10-minute, onslaught where the Storm were way better and scored 2 converted tries. And I think the rest of the game, the Rabbits were as good, if not better than them. So, you've got one team coming off not a phony win, but, probably a win that could have been a loss. You've got one team coming off a loss that could have been a win. So, everything kind of points towards the Raiders in this one, but at 6.5, I don't feel super strong about it. In terms of the total, 40.5, I just saw a comment come through from Liam, and 40.5 does seem a little bit high to me. We did talk about this pre-pod, but the consensus total is 40.5, so we didn't think that there was a huge rush on it. But whenever you get two teams that do want to win, two top teams, two very, Class A defenses, I can see this one getting into a bit of a grind. So 40.5 does seem a tad high, even though it is a Saturday day game with fine weather.
Yeah, and talking about that Super Sunday, and everyone's feedback on those games was that it was such a high level, and weren't they both great games? And you go back to the fact that we were on the underdog in both games catching points.
Yep.
And it was a great game, but yet the underdogs did not cover. So it goes to show they were both close games, and yet we're catching the points, but it didn't go our way. And I guess my concern with Raiders would be, did that take a lot out of them? Because that they were massively up for that one, a huge home crowd. And it's a Sunday game to turn around onto a Saturday, so a little bit of a shorter, turnaround. And they've been to New Zealand recently and things like that. So are they out of juice?
But as well, I guess. But
yes, the information coming out this week is that the stat that the Raiders have been really good this year, and I think 3rd on the ladder, but can't beat anyone in the top 4. And that includes when they played Manly in the top 4. And I don't know if there's, you actually even said in the recap that the Raiders' ceiling isn't as high as the Roosters and Storm, and maybe there is something to that. But like they could have easily won that game against
100%,
Roosters.
100%.
And if you remember the game like a few months ago, they were at home to the Rabbitohs. Like that was bloody close. They literally dropped the ball over the line. They would have won that game. So I wouldn't read too much into that. But if anything, I wonder if it's bulletin board material for the Raiders to say, let's go and show that we can beat a contending team. And I think that they didn't sustain any injuries on Sunday. And actually BJ comes back into this team, and you love getting BJ back. So It's a very strong 17 that goes in. And as you say, like the Storm, they bring such a class level to every game, but they're 3 wins ahead. You don't know for sure. You got like Billy Walters waiting in the wings there. Could he come in and play hooker or play halves? Or Jerome Hughes can shuffle, as can Pappenhausen. They're both back. You wouldn't want to be on the Storm and then find out Munster or Smith is out. But I know that that's always the case that we make. But if anything, I would actually take the Raiders. I think it's going to be a good game, and I think the Raiders will be definitely up for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob, before we move on to the next game, and a fair question coming through, it's not footy related, but someone's asking, you have a perfectly functional, what looks like a 9. He's asking you're sitting on the floor.
That is a good question. I've got my top batteries failed, so the laptop has to be plugged in by cord. But also, it's this microphone. I've had issues, and I wanted to like have something propped up, sitting in front of my face, and I couldn't quite make it work. Plus the stains on the casting couch as well.
That's fair. So don't want to fuck in on that shit. All right, let's move on. Rabbitohs laying 9.5 points, hosting the Bulldogs. 38.5 is the total. Got to give it to the Bulldogs, like I kind of said in the recap pod. They've won 4 out of the last 6, despite being one of the shitter teams in the comp, and they are just putting in, week out. In their losses, their couple of losses last week, they've put in good performances, which I've liked betting on the Bulldogs in the past, but even this season, before the line effort, generally you can, rely on, Jacob's gone. Jacob is gone. We've lost him. I'll just keep going. We'll see if I can feed him back in. I don't actually think I'll be. Oh, you are a black screen at the moment. So, maybe you need to actually remember when you turned black. Oh, no, that sounds weird, but all right, you are back. You're back. So the Dogs, I don't question the Dogs' motivation here. They've showed me, I know a lot of the shit teams, you say, they put in one good performance, just a one-off, especially down the home, and they're out of the finals contention. But this Bulldogs team, it's no fluke. They've put in 6 good weeks in a row. They've been completely out of finals contention. So, I have no doubt that they will put in again, most likely. But you have the Rabbitohs coming off a loss. They could have won that game, to be fair. Very tough game against the Storm, but it's a good bounce back spot for the Rabbits. So, that's one reason to take them. They're at home. We know they're the much superior team. Reasons to take the Bulldogs, I guess, is that, they have been putting in solid efforts week in, week out, and it is a bit of a letdown spot for the Rabbits. You're coming off a loss to the Storm, and historically, teams don't do very well against the spread the week after they play the Storm. Whatever it is, just, emotionally, physically getting up for a game against a team that is, year after year very, very good. They tend to be in a bit of a letdown spot the next week. But you get Sam Burgess, your leader, back, and I do expect the Rabbitohs to win this game. I mean, to be fair, I can't really see a situation like in which the Bulldogs win. And like you say, Jacob, I don't know, maybe you can shed some light, but we don't like taking underdogs when we can't really see them win, and I can't see the Bulldogs winning this game.
Now, you're just going to have to carry on if it cuts out again.
That's right. I cannot actually hear you. You're in for a little bit, and then you're out, and you're still out. So we'll see how Jacob goes. I can't hear him, and he's frozen. I can see you kind of moving.
Sorry, they were completely out of contention, they were bringing it every week.
Continue. Okay, you were back for a second, but now you can't continue. But anyway, what Jacob... We're toast. We're actually toast. What's happened to you, Jacob? Are you there? Yeah, we are stealing the neighbour's internet again. I don't know what's happened. Someone throw a comment through if they can actually hear me or anything. Otherwise, we'll just cut this motherfucker off. Can anyone hear me? Can you hear me, Jacob? You're in the comments. Just tell me if you can actually hear me. And then I will continue. Okay, I'm back. Let's go. Alright, sweet. Fucking hell. Alright, let's move on then. Next up, we have... Oh my god! Why? Jacob, I'm telling you, fucking put a, like some sort of fucking curse on my laptop, because now you're out, and now my mouse won't work, so I can't fucking change the graphics. Oh, never mind. Alright, I'm changing the graphics. You can hear me, that's the main thing. Fucking hell. Alright, Roosters laying 13.5 points, and why has that disappeared again, the graphic? Hang on. Roosters laying 13.5 points, hosting the Warriors. 41.5 is the total. Look, this is not a super tough one for me. I guess it is a little bit. I want to take the Warriors here. I really do. They've just gotten back some confidence here. I looked at them. They're obviously they have a chance of making the 8 now, especially after that win against Manly. And what we know about the Warriors is that they are a confidence team. And they will draw some confidence from that Manly game. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a letdown spot for them. But they've got to look at their remainder of the year. They pretty much have to win, I think, 3 out of the next 4 games. So rather than saying, all right, we're fucking giving up on the season here, they could have done that last week. They didn't. I really think this is a kitchen sink game for the Warriors, and I think they put everything into this game and try and beat the Roosters here. And if they don't, then I'll certainly look to fade them for the rest of the season. But I don't want to lay 13.5 points with a Roosters team, which, still... It said streaming stopped. Alright, now the stream is back. It's very strange. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I would play the Warriors in this spot. It's 13.5 consensus around the board, so there's no need to rush out and grab the 13.5 at the moment. But that's certainly the way that I would be leaning for the Roosters-Warriors game. Try and speed this up to get through this before I fucking freeze again. Sharks-Dragons. Sharks laying 8.5 points, hosting the Dragons. 39.5 points is the total. I know that the Sharks are the superior team here. They're getting healthier. They are... The stream dropped out when I said when I don't lay. Yeah, true. You can finish that sentence if you like. Look, the Sharks will probably win this game. They've got a lot to play for. They're the more superior team, and they're at home. But here's the thing. The Dragons are completely out of the 8 now. They, as we saw last week, they're playing a lot looser, and maybe that's a good thing for them. They've got fucking dudes like Corey Norman in their team that Ben Hunt, the pressure gets to these kind of guys. So maybe it's really helped them to loosen up and just play some football and know that, they're no chance of making the 8. The pressure's off. The pressure's been lifted. I understand that they let in 28 points, but that was probably just a fun sort of muck around game for them against the Titans. This is a rivalry game, Sharks Dragons, and surprisingly enough, I actually do think that the Dragons show up here. But do I really want to play a team that I know is inferior, where motivation is slightly questionable, against a Sharks team off a loss against the Panthers, who, arguably the Panthers without Maloney played one of their better games of the season. I know that the Sharks team can absolutely turn it on. You're getting Matt Moylan back. However, you lose Andrew Fafita, which certainly is a blow to the forward pack, but their forward pack is very, very solid, full of solid veteran players. So but Matt Moylan out is certainly a blow to their playmaking. But on the Dragon side, you got Tarek Sims out, so they're not full strength either. So at a line of 8, it's it probably seems pretty much right to me. I think the Sharks probably do win this game. If anything, I know that Jacob, when we were talking earlier, was leaning Sharks. I was actually probably, leaning towards the over in this one. I think Dragons will throw it round it a little bit more, and I know that Sharks can put on some points. If you are going to play Dragons, though, I would say one thing. I would probably just play the Dragons to win, honestly. Because if they're close at halftime, they're going to keep putting in. If they're down 10 points at halftime, I have a feeling that, the Sharks could just run away with it. So it is one of those games where I think, if you are going to play the Dragons, maybe just play them to win rather than plus the 8 points, because I think it's either going to be one way. It's either going to be a close game or the Sharks just absolutely blow them out of the water. So that's how I feel about that one. Unfortunately, no bets on the Sharks Dragons as of yet. But like we said, make sure you tune in and make sure you have the Tripod app. As soon as we release those bets, any additional bets tomorrow at around lunchtime, you will get a notification for them. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Yes, we are using the neighbour's internet. Yes, we are downloading too much porn. All of the above are correct, but still we should be able to get the internet correct. So thanks for tuning in once again, and look, I'm feeling good about this bounce back spot. 6 out of 9 winners in the horses today. Got my glasses on, trying to change things up, and it's not often where we've had 4 losing weeks in a row. Maybe we've never had that in a total of 5 years. So it certainly is unusual for us, but I feel good about this slate of games. Not too many best bets, but the best bets that we do have at the moment, we are confident in. So once again, thanks for listening. Make sure you're in our group. There's a link in the description to this video. Make sure you've downloaded the Tripod app. That's where all our tips are, and a bunch of other expert tipsters. And we'll catch you at 6 p.m. after the Sunday games to break down what is hopefully a bounce back round of winning bets. See you then.